Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Wow, we've got a lot of people here. Thank you so much for coming. Really appreciate your support. This part of the program, of the Youth Symphonia program, I feel like could be considered the most important because it requires the students to listen to each other and develop these skills that are more than just playing their own instrument. Most of us, we start playing and we spend so much time in a practice room listening to ourselves. But when you get in a chamber group, it's imperative that you understand what everybody else is doing. And the fun thing about it is that they get to actually manage themselves as much as possible. So I like them, if they decide that they want to play a particular piece, if we okay the piece, then we can, I let them get the music. That's great. But the most important part, I think, is they get to invent their own names. And some of the names they come up with are better than any names I could come up with. So in the early years, I used to give them all names. But then I think the third year in, we decided to let them create their own names, and they're very creative. And so our first group, and by the way, our group's we only have one that's a string quartet. It's a big program. So the larger the group, actually, the more responsibility each person has to keep that group playing cohesively as a unit. The pieces you're going to play are really great pieces by Mozart and Haydn, the greats, the legends. So without further ado, please welcome the Five Musketeers. Okay, so while we're setting up for each group is a little different. I'll tell you a little bit more about the program. The first thing we need to do is recognize our coaches. We have, I think, at least one coach I see sitting right there. Her name is Susanna Schalik. Please stand up, Susanna. We play concerts on Friday nights, and sometimes they're exhausting. And she gets right up on Saturday morning and she comes and coaches our groups. So we really appreciate it. So give her another round of applause. Roman, I don't know whether Roman was able to make it today, but Roman Murin, he's another one of our coaches also. And then we really appreciate the time that they put in. Our next group is interesting. There used to be a show, I think some of us remember, I'm not going to tell everybody how old we are, called The Golden Girls. Somehow they got wind of it, so they called themselves the Golden Bows. So I thought it was very clever. But I think one of the most important things about this program, as we get this next group ready, is leadership. It's really hard to play our instruments, but it's hard to play our instruments and become a good leader at the same time. And it takes time and practice to learn how to cue something. If you're going to start a piece, we have to start it in the same tempo as we have to cue at the same tempo we're going to start, so everybody knows how fast. Sometimes we have to cue to indicate tempo and dynamics. So if I give you a cue, you know that I'm going to go this fast and I'm going to start slow. Or something like that. I'm going to start soft or loud. But it takes a lot to learn how to do that and to coordinate it all, the bows, the fingerings and everything. So we spend a lot of time, and I think this is a very good program to learn how to be a good leader because they don't have anybody else there to think for them. They have to think for themselves. So I think we're ready. Are we ready? Please welcome the Golden Bows. So while we're getting ready for our next group, because it is a little bit large, a little history. We started this program in 2005 to train the younger generation for the youth orchestra, which is basically a high school orchestra. And so we started this thing, and we started with 13 students in '05. There was no chamber music like this. So I was a Suzuki teacher at the time, and I had a big Suzuki group, and we traveled all around the place, all around. We played for the governor, we played at the Ritz-Carlton, and we played down Third on 3rd Street, Thursdays on 3rd. You familiar with that? They had a celebration on 3rd Street every Thursday during the season. And so, you know, I would take my Suzuki group down there, we would perform and everything. So I got a lot of contacts on, you know, playing places. So when this particular thing started, one of my contacts asked if I would bring my little group down to play outside. Well, we started playing, and the cello and first violin got separated. And we couldn't get them back. I thought, we've got to get them in a string quartet, because then they could practice being together, thinking together, and listening to each other. So we did. So we decided, okay, they'll show up an hour early before rehearsal. I'll work with them on all this. So they did, and they fell in love with it. So next thing you know, we had 2 quartets. And then the group started growing, and then we had 3, and then we had 4, and it just kept going like that. And so the great thing about it was, I never had any trouble getting the cellos with the first anymore after all of that. So you can see how they do so much better. It makes the conductor's job a lot easier. So please welcome the Crazy 8.
Wow, that was terrific. All right.
So, I have a little bit of correction on the name here. Row your boats gently down the strings instead of boat. Right? Okay, please welcome Row Your Bows Gently Down the Stream. So, if you all were present at our Magic Carpet performance, which maybe some of you might not have, so I'll fill you in. Hopefully you'll be able to come next year and see. But we had a good time. And actually, the featured string quartet is the next quartet that you're about to hear. And the neat thing about this program and playing chamber music is, if all of us that have grown up playing chamber music, we always flip-flop and sit in different chairs. And at times we play each other's instruments. If you start playing viola, somebody switches, my daughter, I remember when she was in, she tried somebody's cello and loved it. So, she started taking cello lessons. So you never know what you're going to run into, what you're exposed to. The piece that they played for Magic Carpet was the first movement of Mozart's Divertimenti number 1. Okay, falls in the same category as the Mozart you heard in our concert today. It's the same kind of a casual type of music. So that was the first movement of the D major. So they're going to play the last movement of that same Divertimenti, and they flip-flop first and second violin. So please, the name is kind of clever too, because they practice in the smallest room because they're the smallest group. And it kind of feels like a closet in there. It's not a closet, but there are a lot of things, books and things in there. So they call themselves the Closet Quartet. to the very last group. It's been fun, yay? It's been a lot of fun. The good thing about it is, once they're out here, they're on their own, and the only people that can help them is themselves. And isn't that terrific at this age? And actually, we have two of our youngest players that were the first and second violins, and they're playing in that last group. And I just have to say that the last group, Amelia Bowen was not able to be here to play as cellist. So we had Josie Lehman. She stepped in a week before, and she basically sight read the piece. So thank her for that. This is our last little dance group. We're very, very proud of them. And I asked them, is there any reason, why you wanted to call yourself the Icebreakers? And they said, we're just the Icebreakers. So, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the Icebreakers. Thank you all so much for coming. And remember, tomorrow, 7 o'clock, Hayes Hall, Summer Spectacular, combines a youth orchestra with the Naples Philharmonic. You have to come. You just have to cancel everything else, and we'll see you there tomorrow night. Thank you very, very much for your support.